and when it's built correctly, and that will usher in World War III, and that's when the Messiah comes back. Which I think is a pretty crummy thing to base your faith tradition on. And so they got really excited about this being the place and how important this place is, and this is the place where it happened. And so if you're a real Christian, you have to come here, which I do not believe is the point of the incarnation. I believe the point of Jesus coming to be born anywhere is so he can be born in us, right? And that Jesus coming to this place and making it holy makes all of our places holy. And that's when the Lutherans stopped listening to any lectures given by Christian Zionists. They did not get invited to talk anymore because that was that. But it was interesting to be here. These walls are not the walls from Jesus' time. They're not the walls from David's time. The walls have moved a lot over time. But the Palestinians will tell you that, and the Jews will tell you this too, that the walls are made out of the same stuff. There's only so many rocks to go around, so you can decide that it is the rock or not, depending on what you think. There's a church up there called Dominus Flevit, the Lord wept, and it's built in this funny shape with these little like bottle things on the top, because those are copies of ancient Roman tear bottles, where people would collect their tears, and there would be a sign of their sadness. And you look out the window and you can see Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. We then passed through the Garden of Gethsemane, where I gave another little talk. It was not as good as the little talk I gave at the Jordan, but you know, these things happen. And this is the Church of the Agony. This is where Jesus, the church on the site where Jesus was to have prayed. You see that church with the golden domes behind it? That's the Russian Orthodox Church of Mary Magdalene, which we did not go to, but it would have been cool to see that. This was a cool church inside. All mosaics. This is the rock on which Jesus is remembered to have prayed in his agony in Gethsemane. It does not look like the one from my little church in Minnesota, I have to say. You know the picture of Jesus praying on the rock? I didn't imagine it to be this flat. But there it is. And all of the windows were made out of alabaster. These are all stone. Wow. Isn't that cool? It was a neat place. It was a real church, unlike a lot of these chapels. It was a powerful place to be. The olive trees around here were not from Jesus' time, but they're probably about 1,000 years old. Then we went to Jerusalem, and here you go through a gate called the Dung Gate, and you're there. This is the Wailing Wall. There it is, the Western Wall, right there. Smack, you turn a corner, there it is. Which was the first time we started seeing Jews in large numbers. And there were a lot of Jewish people, a lot of people who were dressed in very traditional ways, with hats and curls, and women with sport hose and long stockings or long skirts, and sometimes kerchiefs, but sometimes not, sometimes wigs, sometimes not. What surprised me about being here was how young it was. The people praying were in their 20s, early 30s, a lot of women with strollers. And they were really praying. They were not there to chit-chat. You can see there's a men's side and a women's side. Which one's the men's side, do you think?
Left.
Yeah, it's the left one. It's the big ones. See how all these people are crammed in here? Those are the women. And then there were all the men, and it kept on going, and there was a synagogue over here for them, but this is the women's section. But as much as that cracked me up, there were, in both sections, these bookshelves full of prayer books, I think. They could also be Torahs. I'm not sure what all of them were. They weren't in my language. But people would go up to them, open the glass doors, look for what they wanted, find one, and then they would go pray. And these are all stands that you can take to put your prayer book on, or tables if you need more space to spread out your stuff. And people would stand right against the wall, and some of the men were rocking back and forth as they prayed, and some people weren't. And people would be there for a long time. This was not a 5-minute prayer thing. This was you're there for a couple hours. Our tour guide said to us, "Do not be Americans. Push your way through. You will never get in." It wasn't that big of a deal to get in. I did not have to shove anyone. There I am with all my prayers for all of you. And you see that people take the little pieces of paper and they stuff them in the cracks. And I kind of loved that image of rebuilding the temple with our prayers. There's something really lovely about that, taking those little bits and pieces and making making something holy. And the rocks are really big. Look how big those are. You can see the disciples. My, what large stones those are. They really are. They're impressive even today. Then we started walking through the city. That's what it looks like to walk through Jerusalem. In much of the old city, you could not get a car if you wanted to. They're very narrow ways, and a lot of them have stairs. See those stairs that are sort of hidden in places? And you walk and walk and walk, and suddenly there we were in the Via Dolorosa. I thought, this is kind of interesting. Look, here we are at the Station of the Cross. And then I realized, oh, this is the Station of the Cross. That was pretty cool. Even though the Stations of the Cross only date to, it depends on who you count. The current way of the Cross is probably a 19th century invention. They don't know where any of these places were. I was kind of hopeful they would at least know where the Antonia Fortress was, but they don't. Aside from the temple, they don't know where anything was, which was a little surprising to me. There are lots of modern churches on the way, and you can decide for yourself how you feel about those places. Jesus walked in Jerusalem, whether he walked in these exact places. There were Catholic groups carrying crosses on their shoulders, walking through the streets. Here is what it looks like in the marketplace. You can buy and sell anything, including the entire insides of goats. To each their own. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This is where the tomb of Jesus and the site of Golgotha was. I did not know that they were both there until I got there, which is interesting. And there is a very important ladder. Do you see that ladder? That is the status quo ladder. This ladder was placed there 300 years ago. This ladder was placed there so long ago that it actually isn't the same ladder. They put a new ladder up there because the old one rotted. But you can't take it away because of the status quo. If you take it away, that means somebody, either the Armenian Orthodox who have access to inside, or the Greek Orthodox who are in charge of the ceiling, have gotten gain. So the ladder stays. There's a lot of that in there, which is the reason why, if you've ever been there, you probably didn't get to see what I saw. There's a central building in the middle of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre that's called the Edicule. And the Edicule is where the tomb of Jesus is supposed to be. And for the last 50 years, it has been under scaffolding because it was falling down. And they could not put it back together because they couldn't agree how to do it without breaking the status quo. And you know who solved the problem? Lutherans did. The Lutheran church is right next door, and the Lutherans came up with a proposal to take down the scaffolding and to keep the status quo, and it is fixed. So you can go there and see it, which is pretty cool. And yay, Lutherans. Here are people lighting candles. It is a very weird place. There's all these different levels and all this stuff going on, and there's a guy dressed up like Jesus wandering around. People call Detroit Jesus because he's from Detroit. And
Oh my God.
it's weird. And this is the Edicule with no scaffolding, and there are some really big candles in front of it. So there you are. And this is an Armenian Orthodox priest swinging a whole bunch of incense, because every now and then a bunch of men have to go in there and close it off in a place where a woman first saw the Lord raised. So there you have it. Not that we feel bitter about it or anything. This is Golgotha, which is upstairs from there. It's in the same building. And here's the Lutheran church. It does not look like a nice Lutheran church. It really is. And I said to my friend Carrie, this does not look like the place you post on Facebook where your services take place. And she says, oh no, we meet in an old Crusaders chapel that's upstairs somewhere. This is the main church, is the big church where Palestinians and Germans worship. We got in and the organist was practicing. We really wanted to sing because we were a big group of Lutherans. And so when she stopped, we asked if she could play for us. And she said, what do you want me to play? And we said, could you play Mighty Fortress? And she said, I don't know that one. And we went, and then somebody said, Ein Feste Burg. And she said, oh yeah, I can play that. We're good to go. And so we sang Mighty Fortress, and we talked to the guy at the door, and he was so excited when, where are you from? From Chicago. have you been here before? No, I said, but Bishop Yunnan has come to visit us. Oh, we were family then. We had a good half-hour chat, because I was the real deal. Here it is, the Dome of the Rock. We went up there. I think this is probably as close as I will ever get to any of the holy sites in Islam, because you can't go to Mecca or Medina if you're a Christian, but you can go here. We can get to go inside. This is the Dome of the Rock is built on the place where Muslims say that Muhammad came on his overnight journey and ascended into heaven. For Jewish people, this is remembered as the place where Isaac was nearly sacrificed. It's interesting because the temple wasn't always here. Solomon's temple was not here. This is a different site from that. And this is where the second temple was. Jewish groups come up into here. They come up with armed guards. There'll be 3 Jews and 4 people with Uzis, and 3 other Muslims walking with them. We're making sure that nobody does anything to break the status quo, right? So no prayer books, we can wear our crosses, but no Bibles. And our tour guide told us that once one of his tour members got in trouble for digging in the dirt around the rocks because he was excavating. No excavating. A lot of rules to keep this straight. The Christian Zionists in our group, there are some Christian Zionists in Texas who are trying to breed a perfect red bull without a white hair so they can sacrifice it and scatter its ashes here and build the next temple. Because that's what Jesus wants, apparently. Jews do not walk up here on the top part where the Dome of the Rock is. I found this fascinating because no one knows for sure exactly where the temple was, and they don't want to walk in the Holy of Holies. I really thought that was super interesting. But we walked up there, and it was a very beautiful building, and you can kind of see that 8-sided architecture that was very common in early Christian churches too. Our font is 8-sided. The 8th day is when Jesus was raised. We then went to St. Anne's Church, the place where Jesus' mother is remembered to have been born. This is a Crusader church. It's one of the few churches that was not destroyed by Muslims after Muslims had control over Jerusalem because it had such fine acoustics. It became a school. And there's a nice statue of St. Anne in there, and everybody goes in there and sings. So we sang. And it's right over where the pools of Bethsaida were. This is a cathedral that was built on top of those pools where Jesus did the healing. This was sort of a reservoir in Jesus' time. And they built a church on it, and then they built another church on it, and they built more churches on it, and now there are no pools anymore. There is definitely a sermon in there. But it was cool to look at. This is a church that a lot of people liked a lot, and I did not like at all. This was the church of Christ in Gallicanto. This is supposed to be Pilate's house where Jesus was tried and tortured. And there is no historical evidence that it actually took place here, but they decided this is where it took place. And so they'll take you into a bunch of dark rooms and say, look, that's where they hung him up and whipped him till he bled. And look, this is where he suffered. And I do not like that kind of thing because I knew too many people who were tortured when I was a kid. So I do not find that religiously entertaining. I'm too harsh. I think people can get a lot of things out of this. And I think you have to remember that people are still suffering, and if you get that out of it, it can be a good site to go to. A bunch of people got tattoos because Christians have long gotten tattoos in the Holy Lands as a remembrance of their trip. This tattoo artist family has been doing this for 700 years. Wow. And they use stamps. They use stamps to make these tattoos. So they stamp you and then they tattoo over it. So this was a stamp that one pastor designed for herself. And there's somebody else getting that. The little tattoos, I think they cost $50. And he's tattooed all kinds of people, and this is sort of a pilgrimage thing. I did not do any tattoos, so sorry guys.
Maybe one.
No tattoos. And on my last picture, we got through all 104. I don't know exactly where this was, but this seemed like a good representation of the trip. The barbed wire, the cross, the complications of being a Christian in this world. A reminder that And I think that it seems a very appropriate place to remember Jesus, that his world was not an easy one, and the current world of the Holy Lands is not an easy one, where peace is hard won and where people are still suffering and struggling and trying to find a way, and without the hope of Christ, is there a way? We were given, all the pastors were given stoles as our farewell present from our hosts with the Jerusalem cross on them. I did not know we were all going to receive stoles, so I bought one ahead of time. And then you saw my olive wood, and then I bought this actually for Marge Chappello because she came through for us when Betty had no one to take care of her. My mother-in-law canceled the day before we went because she needed emergency jaw surgery. And so fortunately, Marge was able to ferry Betty to dance class. But they have all these Etsy products, so those are the things I brought back.
How long were you there, Kate?
6 days.
Wow. You
did a lot.
I was tired.
Were you surprised that it was as busy, crowded, built up as some of your pictures looked that you posted on Facebook?
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised there were these giant churches on everything. It was delightfully not terribly crowded. I mean, if you're going to go, January's not a bad time to do it because there weren't big crowds. And a lot of places want you to dress modestly. That's not a problem when it's 40 degrees. It actually snowed while we were there, which they were very excited about. And we rushed a few things because we were afraid of getting caught in the snow.
No, nothing looked crowded, it looked built up though.
Yeah.
It looked like a lot of.
Yeah, it was cool. What else? Any other questions? Or ask me later, because I gotta go do another.